in any workplace, group dynamic, or broader socio-political landscape. The friction between individuals is often not just a matter of differing opinions, but rather of fundamental incompatibilities in values, approaches, or personal histories. Such is the case with TRAORÉ and LANGLEY. While from a distance, the conflict between them may appear trivial or even manufactured, a deeper exploration reveals entrenched reasons why these two figures will never truly see eye to eye. Personality clashes at the core. At the most basic level, TRAORÉ and LANGLEY are polar opposites in temperament. TRAORÉ is outspoken, direct, and unafraid to call out what he perceives as inefficiency, injustice, or hypocrisy. He believes in transparency, emotional honesty, and challenging norms when necessary. LANGLEY, on the other hand, is measured, diplomatic, and more concerned with maintaining harmony than instigating change. He values procedure, tradition, and discretion. Where TRAORÉ sees silence as complicity, LANGLEY sees it as wisdom. This difference in disposition means that even before any substantive disagreement arises, their styles already rub each other the wrong way. TRAORÉ thinks LANGLEY is passive-aggressive and evasive. LANGLEY thinks TRAORÉ is abrasive and impulsive. Each sees the other's behavior not just as different, but as fundamentally wrong. Conflicting worldviews. Beyond personality, their differences extend to worldview. TRAORÉ operates from a progressive lens. He is concerned with structural inequities, social justice, and radical transparency. He often sees the status quo as a system to be questioned and disrupted. LANGLEY, in contrast, is conservative, not necessarily in a political sense, but in the literal sense. He seeks to conserve what works, uphold institutions, and avoid upheaval. These opposing ideologies come to a head in every major decision. Whether it's how a team should be managed, how a policy should be interpreted, or what kind of culture a company or community should foster, they inevitably land on opposite sides. When TRAORÉ pushes for radical change, LANGLEY argues for measured progress or restraint. When LANGLEY tries to protect existing systems, TRAORÉ accuses him of being complicit in outdated norms. This ideological gulf means they don't just disagree on how things should be done. They disagree on why things matter in the first place. They aren't just playing different instruments. They're playing entirely different genres of music. A history of tension. Conflict doesn't emerge in a vacuum. Part of what makes reconciliation between TRAORÉ and LANGLEY so unlikely is their shared history, marked by miscommunication, perceived slights, and public confrontations. In meetings, TRAORÉ has openly criticized decisions LANGLEY backed, sometimes in front of superiors or stakeholders. LANGLEY, in turn, has subtly undermined TRAORÉ's initiatives, often by raising doubts behind closed doors. Each feels the other has disrespected them, and neither is willing to forget. While LANGLEY may claim the moral high ground by maintaining a calm, professional demeanor, TRAORÉ sees this as a form of emotional dishonesty. Meanwhile, LANGLEY views TRAORÉ's confrontational style as toxic and counterproductive, even if his criticisms are occasionally valid. When people feel personally hurt or threatened, their capacity for empathy or compromise diminishes. And with each new incident, the rift between them grows wider and more entrenched. Competing leadership styles. Another key reason they'll never see eye to eye is their opposing views on leadership. TRAORÉ believes in empowerment, grassroots engagement, and flattening hierarchies. He encourages dissent and debate, believing that the best ideas emerge from friction. LANGLEY believes in top-down leadership, clear roles, and preserving order. To him, too much dissent signals instability, not innovation. In a team environment, this means they pull their colleagues in opposite directions. TRAORÉ's followers often see him as a champion for change and a voice for the voiceless, while LANGLEY's supporters see him as a stabilizing force in chaotic times. Both groups interpret the same behaviors through entirely different lenses, further fueling the antagonism. When a group has two influential but incompatible leaders, it inevitably fractures. Staff are forced to choose sides, even if they don't want to, and that polarization reinforces the original divide. Each success or failure by one leader becomes a perceived loss or victory for the other. Cultural and generational differences. Although not always central, cultural and generational differences can also play a part in their friction. TRAORÉ, possibly shaped by a background where collective struggle and directness were necessary for survival or progress, often expects others to be as vocal and assertive as he is. Langley, perhaps coming from a more hierarchical or reserved tradition, sees public criticism as a breach of decorum and a threat to cohesion. If TRAORÉ is younger, he may also view Langley as emblematic of outdated thinking and institutional inertia. If Langley is older, he may see TRAORÉ as lacking patience and respect for process. These implicit judgments, rarely spoken aloud but deeply felt, compound their inability to connect. Even when they agree on surface-level goals, say, improving diversity or increasing efficiency, their methods and motivations differ so sharply that they still can't align. Lack of mutual respect. Perhaps the most definitive reason TRAORÉ and Langley will never see eye to eye is the absence of genuine mutual respect. While they may feign civility when necessary, each fundamentally distrusts the other's motives and dismisses the other's values. Without respect, there is no foundation for compromise, no bridge strong enough to support reconciliation. In truth, each man believes he is the rational one, the ethical one, the one doing the hard but necessary work. Each sees the other as an obstacle rather than a partner. This isn't merely a matter of ego, it's about identity. To change their view of the other would require each to question a part of their own self-image. And few people are willing to do that, especially when the other person continues to behave in a way that confirms their worst assumptions. A permanent stalemate. In any conflict, there is a possibility for resolution, but only when both parties see some shared interest or common humanity. For TRAORÉ and Langley, that shared ground is too sparse. Their visions for leadership, communication, change, and purpose are not just different. They are diametrically opposed. Like two magnets facing the wrong way, they repel rather than attract. Efforts at mediation may help reduce overt hostility, but true alignment is unlikely. At best, they may learn to coexist without constant conflict, but even that will require a third party to manage the delicate balance. And even then, tension will always simmer beneath the surface. In the end, the inability of TRAORÉ and Langley to see eye to eye is a reminder that not all conflicts can be solved. Sometimes they simply must be managed. And sometimes the most honest path forward is recognizing that unity, however noble, is not always possible, especially when the values at stake are too deeply held to be compromised.